Okay, so we are exactly 2 minutes past the hour. So I think to be considerate of everybody's time who's here, we'll get started. So hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today for our discussion on bridging the tech gap between Adobe AEM and Veeva Vault. We'll be discussing two good solutions today, a connector and an integration and automation platform. We kind of want to talk about what your options are in bridging the gap between these two systems, talk about the value each adds over having no integration and how they differ. At the end of today's session, we will be sharing some information on how we can help you create a business case for either and help you assess some of the value for each. And before we get started, I wanted to remind everybody that we'll be recording today's session and sending it out to anybody who has registered along with today's deck. And we expect today's session to run about 45 minutes. We're going to be starting with just a quick overview and then going into a demonstration and then talk a little bit more about the business case at the end. But to formally introduce ourselves, my name is Dimitri. I'm the sales director here at Expedient Digital and will be moderating the event today. So be sure to submit any questions you have either via the chat or the Q&A button. We'll try and cover them as we go along or at the end, but we'll definitely be sure to answer all the questions. And we'll also be posting a couple of questions via the poll, so we welcome some participation if you don't mind submitting some of your answers. Presenting today, we have Greg, our CGO. He's going to be taking you through the quick deck, and Rohit, our Director of Product, will take you through a short demo. So Greg, if you're ready to take it away. I think you're muted, Greg.
Oh, sorry. Well, thank you, Dimitri, and thank you everybody for joining today, especially on this couple of days before the long weekend. So I hope everybody has a fabulous long weekend. So let's as we talk about the concept of a connector versus a platform, as it relates to really bridging the gap between Adobe and Veeva. Couple of things that come to mind, right, that are important. And we're going to talk about really what a connector is and the things and functions it performs versus what typically the platform does. And then how all that relates to the value. And really what it comes down to, which in most cases, what we have not seen too many clients do, is really formalize a business case process around determining what that value is. And there's many reasons, I think, for that, but it's something that we have really been trying to do with especially new clients in terms of trying to get them to think about the difference, because quite often a lot of clients don't quite understand those differences. And there are differences, and a lot of companies have gone down the path of trying to build custom connectors as an example, and they spend lots of time, lots of money, and only to end up, frankly, trying to find a product, and there's not too many out there. So there's not many options in this space right now. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But let me start with this notion of a business case. And, when you go down that path and look at your functional requirements, I'm going to just take an example here, which is completely outside of, the connector world that we're talking about, or the integration world. Let's take a new truck, right? I'm going to go buy a new truck, and I'd like to have an EV. That would probably be nice. Right? Save the climate. Would be a really great thing. There's actually some pretty cool ones out there. But when I think about requirements, right, what would I want? Well, I need something that's going to have a lot of torque, 4-wheel drive. I do a lot of boating, right? So I pull a boat. And so you got to have mileage under load. You get out in the middle of nowhere, you're not going to have a place to plug it in. So that becomes an issue. So that mileage under payload is really important. And if you really look at it, there's some different ones out there, and some of these are really unique, interesting. Tesla, that's looks like a moonmobile. Rivian is a great little truck. It's coming out later on this year. Ford just announced their F-150. Then you have something that's kind of a more traditional, kind of an ICE vehicle is kind of part of the comparison. So you start looking at all those things, and the question is, well, what is going to meet my needs? And we're going to talk about that at the end of this, but kind of set the stage for this. So let's talk about the problem, right? And the problem here in this whole ecosystem, from creation of assets, creation of concepts, into publishing those concepts either on the web or in an email channel or in an IVA channel, is today between Adobe and Veeva, these are all highly siloed situations. And other technologies as well, not just Veeva and not just Adobe. So between anything on the creative side to publishing, there's a few different authoring platforms. And so from the point of design to asset creation, I mean, you got some standards, you got design standards, you've got a lot of templates, you got a lot of things that have to occur there. And typically those are all fairly manual today. Then you move into asset curation, from asset creation to asset curation. That can be fairly manual. And the creation side, the question there becomes, is there anything you got to leverage? Are you leveraging modular content? Are you leveraging any assets? What we're finding from most clients, and I can give you a couple of pretty good examples, is they're building anywhere between 65 and 85% of their assets are one-off. They build them once, never to be used again. And when you step back and you look at that, some of the larger clients we have, when you look at those numbers, and one in particular, which did roughly 8,000 new assets a year, and these were all used just once. That's about anywhere from $45 to $60 million. Now, that's one of the challenges is that concept of that total cost from an end-to-end perspective is not well known today, because you've got multiple people that are involved in it. You've got the brands, you've got marketing, quite often a couple of different groups within marketing. IT touches this. And then you get the AORs and various agencies and technical agencies. So you got a lot of people, and you got a lot of organizations. And so trying to figure out that actual number is a bit of an art, is unfortunately. But so you're spending a lot of money just in the creation of the assets. Forget about building the actual channel at this point. So then you start curating all these assets, you start putting those together, and you start authoring. And in some cases, depending on the channel, that authoring could be using AEM as the authoring platform for web. But generally, most people are custom building the other channels. So emails, IVAs are all custom coded. And so you're going through this process and trying to manually create the MLR packages. Because it's so manual, there tends to be some issues. So you get quite a few rejections. We find anywhere between 3 and 4 typically to get to an approved asset or an approved composite asset. And then you've got to go build those publishing packages. That takes time. That's, again, fairly manual, and ultimately push that into the published environment. So the problem is fairly straightforward. The solution is a little less clear. So when we look at requirements, what do we tend to see from clients? What objectives do we tend to see from clients? So they're trying to streamline the design through publishing digital asset supply chain. That's something worded like that is generally what they're suggesting, what they need. Eliminating custom coding and channel content. Why? It's expensive, takes a lot of time, hard to change. And a lot of this stuff has, obviously, the channel content has to change multiple times. Automating the creation of the MLR packages, very manually intensive, and also error prone. So the more errors you have, did you include all the source files? Did you include all the right metadata as part of this? Did you include, all the various pieces and part of the distribution packages were necessary? So there's a lot of things you have to package up. And can that be automated, right? Improving content leverage and reuse. So the whole notion of modular content is really driving a lot of this today, is what we're finding. It's almost like modular content first, then let's figure out the integration, how we're going to tie it all together. So then if I kind of look at some capabilities that are being requested, right? Well, we want to connect Adobe and Veeva. We want to support modular content. So does the platform, does the solution, does the integration support modular content? Can we use AEM as an authoring platform for all channels? That's a question we get quite often. Can we simplify the MLR package prep? Can we move metadata, source files, all the related content with the assets if we can come up with a way to tie it together? So these are some of the basic questions we tend to get in terms of customers, prospects thinking about doing this. But typically there's that concept of, I'm looking for a connector that does this, or I'm looking for a platform that does a lot more. That doesn't really come up. So the options, there's really a couple of things. One is there's connectors, and we're going to talk about one here today and show you one. And that does some very basic things. It connects AEM to Veeva. It doesn't, it's not automating anything, but it just provides that base level integration. And that it has value, clearly. Then there's a kind of an integration, what we refer to as an integration and automation platform. That platform really takes the connector as the foundation and builds on it with layers. And we're going to talk about that. And the value then that you're getting out of that is exponential to what the connector does. Then you got some select point solutions. So there are some solutions that will frankly, in one case, which is used by quite a few companies, mainly around IVAs, is from a company called Visiven. And it's a completely separate platform, a completely separate authoring platform, and DAM that really helps you with IVAs. And it does a great job, and it does the integration as well. So there are some other options, but what we're doing then is we're adding other technologies into the mix. And does that make sense? Many customers want to try and reduce the number of technologies, leverage what they've got, maximize the cost basis on the licensing. So that's some of the options. And then the other one that we see quite often that we tend to move clients away from, which happens quite a bit, is where they build a custom connector. And clearly, if I can use a product, right, there's a lot of benefits, pros and cons between custom building versus going to buy a product. So I've got to go build something. That takes, it takes a lot of time, a lot of investment. In the product case, you've already got it. It's done. It's there. It's mature. Somebody's investing in it. Then you get the time, build and deploy it. Product side is just the deployment side. On the ongoing support, that tends to be whoever the contractor was or the agency that built it. They're providing you support. That's in T&M, kind of a T&M basis. And typically you're spending kind of pretty close to an FTE, maybe a couple of FTEs every year, just on support. So the ongoing support through a product is going to be a lot less than that cost, right? No service levels on the custom side. And on the product side, you'll have service levels. No ongoing updates necessarily for the custom product. And that's really where you start getting some big issues, which is AEM and Veeva is making significant changes every year to their product sets. And you got to stay up to date with those. You've got to have those relationships. You got to have the connections into the engineering teams. And on the product side, you get ongoing updates because there's ongoing investments being made in those platforms. On the custom, you got limited innovation. That ties to people, ties to cost. And typically the notion is the connector is something you should just put in place and never have to touch it again. But that can't be farther from the truth.
Yeah, and it might be interesting to note, Greg. So I posted those polling questions, and it looks like about 80% of our participants are considering a connector, and 20% already have one in place. So hopefully this is a little bit relevant. And surprisingly, on authoring and automation, a lot of people are considering adding automation in addition to the integration, and we have about 25% who aren't sure. So just something to note as we go through. I think it'll be interesting to note, I think, the differences and I guess what we have to add in terms of automation in addition to the connector functionality.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And then on the product side for innovation, obviously that's the core in the product company is really how to drive that innovation. Is trying to drive more and more value. So those are kind of some of the considerations. So let me turn this over to Rohit to kind of walk you through a little bit more here, kind of that next level of detail. Rohit?
Sure. Thanks, Greg. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. So just to kind of get into a little bit of detail about the connector and the integration solution, right? What you get with the connector is basically the bidirectional connectivity between AEM and Veeva. That's what we do at its core. It really is an integration solution that gives you connectivity to send your assets from Veeva to AEM if you're using Vault as your DAM, and to send documents back from AEM to Veeva along with any associated metadata. So you get that regardless of whether you go with the connector or whether you go with the complete integration solution. What the connector doesn't give you and what the integration solution does is functionality that goes above and beyond that, right? So it allows you to significantly reduce the manual work that you're having to do. With the integration solution, what you have the capability of doing is you can set up different workflows. So depending on what document type you're trying to send across, whether you're trying to send across a web page, whether you're trying to send across an email, an IVA, you can actually set up different workflow paths. So what we do internally is we detect the MIME type of the document coming across, and then we'll route it differently. So if you have a web page, we'll take a PDF of the web page, we'll send that across as a document of type website. We'll attach a distribution package to it, which is your HTML and all your assets that are included in that web page. If it's an email, then you want to track that and route that a little differently, right? Because your emails, if they are rep-triggered emails, then you want them going through as HTML documents. You want templates and fragments to be sent over with the capability of relating the fragments to the template. So that's another track. IVAs, ISAs, if you guys use those are a third track that needs to be followed, where if you create a presentation and multiple slides for that presentation, and then you send that presentation over, not only do all the slides get sent over along with their metadata, but then the presentation object gets sent over as well as a binder in Vault, and then all those slides get associated with that binder. So there's a lot more flexibility and a lot more automation that you get with the integration platform beyond what you get with just the basic connector. But there's different kinds of clients, right? Certain clients just want to send their documents across with metadata. They want to eliminate that manual step. So yes, the connector will let you do that. Some have needs that go beyond that, and they want these separate doc types and things like that. So what this lets you do, as the slide shows, is it basically lets you start using AEM as your single authoring platform, right? Because it goes beyond just your website. It goes across all your channels. It'll do websites, it'll do emails, it'll do IVAs, and you have the capability of integrating all of those with Vault and Veeva CRM for your MLR review and approval, and then to push those, especially the emails and IVAs, out to the field. And then the main thing that we're also allowing you to do with the integration platform is modular content. So along with XpConnect, You also get XP Omnichannel, which is a framework, right? It's a starter kit, if you will, for emails, IVAs. You get a set of templates and components that allow you to create emails and IVAs very fast and kind of get up and running with these in a very short time period. And that framework is aware of XpConnect because it's built on top of XpConnect. So you again have that built-in capability of being able to send it across, send those emails and IVAs across to Vault and then Veeva CRM as well. All right, so if we move to the next slide. So this is just a comparison of what you get with the basic connector as opposed to integration. We talked about most of this already. You get bidirectional integration with both. You have the capability to submit documents, sync assets, all of that you get with your basic connector. But then with your integration platform, you get a lot of the additional functionality, all that functionality that's in the middle white section. You get that with the integration platform. And that's really your automated creation of MLR PDF package, your configurable single source of truth, building custom workflows that we talked about. So it's a lot of added functionality that you get with the platform. And then, of course, since you're dealing with us as a company, you do get everything that's in the black section there, the ongoing innovation, content authoring factory, support, and all of that. And you'd get that with either solution, the basic connector or the integration platform. All right, moving to the next slide. So this is just a brief view of the architecture. So we install as packages within Adobe. So we'll sit within the Adobe AEM product as OSGI bundles, and we interact with Veeva using the Veeva API. And then we've got, like I said, workflows that are set up within AEM, routing documents appropriately when the user clicks a certain menu option in AEM. And we'll see all that in the demo in a couple of minutes. And like the box on the left shows you, you have the capability to do your multi-channel authoring, right? So you have the capability of doing websites, IVAs, emails, all of those, and then routing them using the platform to Veeva for review and approval. All right, so if there's not any questions at this point, Dimitri, I think we can move to the demo.
Yeah, definitely. We can open it up right now if anybody has questions. Otherwise, we could take a look. The chat is always open and the Q&A is as well, but we haven't had any come in yet.
All right, excellent. So
Unless you go and share, Rohit.
Let me share my screen.
Yeah, and I might have not mentioned it explicitly at the beginning. I did have it up in the agenda, but once we're done through this, we'll talk about some of the numbers that we're seeing for each.
All right, so you guys should see my Veeva Vault screen now. Yep. So what we've got within Veeva Vault is I've got an object. It's an image that I want to use on my content fragment, on my modular content. I'm using Veeva as my single source of truth. So my librarian is actually sitting within the Veeva environment. My librarian is going to approve this for use. So what happens is the moment this is approved for use, I actually just triggered an approval. So when it's approved for use, this asset automatically gets picked up from Veeva and it gets synced over to AEM. So that's XpConnect doing the connectivity behind the scenes from Veeva to AEM. Not only does the object, the asset get synced over, but any related metadata that you want going over to AEM is also synced over to AEM. So since I just triggered a sync, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to give my DAM folder a quick refresh. And there we go. There's my asset that just came over. So now that this asset is available in AEM for my authors to use, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to create a piece of modular content with it. So
I had a quick question I want to ask now, so while it's within context. We had somebody asked, does it need to be classified as a component?
So we can sync it based on whatever classification you decide, right? So if you say you want component image, or if you want to sync a different document, whatever document type you want to pick to be synced over, we can set it up. So it's configurable. It's not a specific document type that you have to have.
Thank you.
All right. So what I've got here is a content fragment. And what my content fragment is going to be is a claim. And then it's going to be an image that actually validates that claim. So I've got my claim text in here already. And what I'm going to add is my image that I just synced over from Veeva to AEM. So I'm going to go to my folder that my image was synced into. And I'm going to select it. And here we go. Now I've got my content fragment that is a combination of my claim text and the chart that validates that claim. So looks good. I'm happy with it. I'm going to save it. All right, so it's saved. And once it's saved and ready for use, really all you have to do is that we give you this XpConnect menu option. So all you have to do is click on it and click on Send to Vault. You pick a workflow. Now, typically in a production environment, you'll only have one vault that you're associating with. So you'll only have one item in here and it'll be defaulted in here. So all you really need to do is you need to click on Start Workflow and that'll send it on its way to the vault. So now while that's going over, there's different MLR teams that work differently with modular content. Some teams will actually review the modular content separately and approve it. And then once it's approved, it can be used across multiple channels. And then any documents that you create, websites, emails, those can be submitted separately. Some MLR teams will say, no, we want to see the modular content in context and will only approve it in context. So if that is the case, then what you can do is start using this modular content right away, because you're going to put it in different channels and then you're going to send it over to MLR once it's in those channels. So let's go look at that piece, right? So I've got some examples here. I've got a web page, I've got an email, and then I've got an IVA slide. So we're going to take this modular content, the same piece of modular content, and we're going to use it across these three channels. So let's start with web page. So I've got a pretty standard web page here. It's got some header information, it's got background imagery, it's got a call to action, and then down at the bottom, it's got ISI. So I'm going to go to edit. And here's the place where I want to place that content fragment, that modular content that I just created. So I'm going to go to my content fragments. I'm going to pick this and drag it over here. And there we go. It's now on my page. I'm going to go to preview. And there it is. And now you'll notice that when we created the modular content, all we had in there was the text and the image. The styling is actually applied based on the channel that you place it into. So you'll see that the text color, size, that changes according to whatever the styling is for the channel that you're placing it into. So your modular content will have the same content in it, but it may look a little different because it's styled differently based on the channel that you're placing it into. So here we go. My web page is now ready. I'm happy with it. The process to send it over again is the same. All you have to do is click on Send to Vault, pick your workflow, and say Start. And there we go. Now my web page is on its way over. So while the web page is going over, let's go back to our sites and let's look at an email. So here I have a pretty standard email. It's got some header.
Rohit, before you jump in, got another question for you. It said, are you screenshotting from MLR, or is the text real live OCR text to take advantage of Veeva's autoclaim linking?
So it depends on the channel, right? And that's a very good question. I can actually show you an example of the autoclaims linking. So yes, when we sent over the modular content, we sent it over as an HTML document. If it goes over as an HTML document, then yes, absolutely, it is the actual text. So you can do the autoclaims linking and it'll find it. And I'll show you guys that in a moment. But if you're sending a web page over and the web page is set over to go over as a PDF because your MLR team requires it that way, then it would not do the autoclaims linking, right? Because then it's PDF and it needs to OCR in the PDF, so it doesn't always find it. But you do have the capability using the tool to set it up to go over as HTML, in which case the autoclaims linking would work. All right, so we've got this email. Again, we've got the pretty standard email, a message for the recipient, some information that you want to send them, and then ISI down at the bottom. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. Go to Edit. I'm going to go to my content fragments, and I'm going to drag and drop. And here we go. My modular content is now added. You'll notice that the text color and size is a little different than what we saw on the web page. It matches this particular channel. So it looks good. I'm ready to send this across. Trigger my send functionality again. Start. And it's on its way over. All right, and then the third channel I wanted to show you guys was the IVA. So if we look at an IVA, this IVA is actually built using the XP Omnichannel framework. So we've got the presentation, and then we've got all of these slides that are set up within the presentation. So we're gonna look at the efficacy slide here. All right, so I've got this efficacy slide here, and what I want to do is this empty area that I have here, that's where I want to place my content fragment. So I'm going to go into my slide, same process again that we did with the web page and the email. I'm going to pick my content fragment, and I'm going to place it here. I do preview, make sure everything looks good. And this is, so not only does this slide have the capability of being sent over using XpConnect, but because this slide is built using XP Omnichannel, you're getting everything that you inherit from the template, right? So what the template gives you is the menu, all of these buttons down at the bottom, the navigation capabilities, you've got place for your logo, place to put your ISI, and then your central content area that you put your content into for your slide. So you're getting all that as part of the framework. So you're basically customizing it for your brand, adding your content, and you're ready to go with your IVAs. So that's just the benefit that you get with the omni-channel framework.
And one comment I'll add to that, Rohit, is, and what would we find in the creation using the authoring approach, using AEM versus the typical approach of custom coding, is it takes about 30% of the time it does on a per slide basis. So it's a very significant improvement in both speed and cost. So back to you, Rohit.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Greg. Because otherwise, if you were creating slides manually, each one would be a new effort that you'd have to do, right? Because in this case, since you have the framework that you've already got, you've got all the building blocks. You're basically just adding your content, adding your branding, and the slide is ready to go. All right. So now that it's ready, I'm going to click on send again. Pick my workflow and do a start. And now this slide is on its way over. And now for this, we just sent over a single slide, right? But you could have sent over the entire presentation as well. So if I click my XpConnect button at this level, it would send all of these slides in the order that we see them in AEM. And then it would send this binder and it would link all these slides to the binder. So it shows up as a complete presentation. All right, so now we've.
Let me add one comment in there, because it's sometimes in the demos you're kind of moving quickly, right? One of the key things that's happening here is when you get ready to send that, it's taken that portion. It could be a page, it could be the whole, the entire site, and it's getting that ready for MLR. That's all happening behind the scenes. And so when Rohit goes in and clicks to say send that, it's creating that entire package behind the scenes, and then automatically routing that up into PromoMats. And so otherwise, normally you'd have to manually go create that file, get that file put into the DAM. When you're getting ready to go push it into PromoMats, you're going to have to grab that file. You're going to have to go open up Veeva. You have to get that file in there. So you got that whole manual process of creating the package. You got to go from system A to system B. So it's just time consuming, right? It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's not only saving you the manual effort of creating the slide itself, but it's also saving you the effort of logging into Veeva, uploading that slide, manually keying in all the metadata, then creating the distribution package and manually uploading that into Veeva and attaching it to that slide you just sent over. So it's all of that cumulative manual effort that's saved by XpConnect sending it automatically behind the scenes.
And this whole system kind of functions. There's a set of kind of what we refer to as base workflows. And generally most customers customize them a little bit and they get tweaked, and all that's very, very doable. So the process we have as our baseline is simply that. And then we can customize it and configure it appropriately. In some cases, we might have to build a little bit of new logic, but generally it's all configuration to get this thing set up to the way you want it to work within your end-to-end ecosystem.
Yep. So just to recap, what we saw is we took an asset from Veeva, and upon approval, that asset was synced automatically to a folder in the AEM DAM. We then took that asset and we used it in a piece of modular content. So we combined that asset with a claim text, and we saved that off as a piece of modular content. We then used that modular content across 3 different channels. We used it on a web page, we used it in an email, and we used it on an IVA slide. And then we sent all 3 of those documents over to Veeva for MLR review and approval. So now we're back in Vault. So now let's look at those 3 documents that were sent over.
All right, while you're doing that, Rohit, we've got another question.
Mhm.
I see a place for Adobe XD templates with AEM components as well, XD accelerator kits for say AORs to AEM to Veeva. Would you agree?
Can you repeat that one?
Yeah, it's where the way it's written, it's a little difficult to understand. Can you see the open question, the Q&A
Oh,
section?
let me open it.
I see a place for Adobe XD templates with AEM components as well, XD accelerator kits for say AORs. And then it looks like it's AORs, AEM, or greater than AEM, greater than Veeva. Would you agree?
So
you could also get to it at the end, if anything.
Yes, I would agree, and we actually do work with a company called InTouch that does work with the XD accelerators. And the way that works is, yes, you could do that work ahead of time, and then you could bring it into AEM either as component kits or however you want to do that with like client libraries or things like that. And then once it's available in AEM and you've created web pages or emails or whatever you want to with those components, then yes, those would flow through to Veeva using XpConnect. But we kind of do the AEM to Veeva piece. As long as you're able to do that additional XD piece and bring it into AEM, we can handle it from there. Did that kind of
Yes, we're getting a thank you. So
okay.
it seems sufficient. Thanks.
All right, no problem. Okay, so let's look at this web page first, right? So we sent over the web page. We sent over the web page as a PDF document, right? And we populated all the required metadata along with that web page. Not only did we populate the metadata, but we also linked any component assets that were included with this web page, right? So we saw this chart, right? We sent this chart from Veeva to AEM, so we're aware that this is a Veeva asset that was used on this web page. So when the web page came back for approval, we automatically linked this component asset to it, saying, "Hey guys, here's a component asset that's used on here. It had a Veeva ID, so we're going to link it just to make sure that it's it's part of this web page." So we'll do that automatically. If we look at renditions, there's a distribution package that's attached to this document. So that the document itself comes over as a PDF, but the distribution package, that file includes all the HTML for the web page and then all of the assets that are used on the web page. So your MLR reviewers can not only look at the PDF for the web page, but they can look at the source as well. And then so that's the web page, and then you can also pick the rendition you want to send across, right? So in this case, I have it set up to do my tablet rendition, so that's why it came up with like a tablet menu. But you could send it across as desktop, tablet, mobile, whatever you want to, or a combination of them, right? Whatever your MLR reviewers want to see, that's how it can be configured.
Yeah, the one thing I would add there that's also another value which you haven't seen is when you're going through that whole MLR process, and let's say something gets rejected, that comes back, and your AEM author that actually authored the asset can see all the changes and all the annotations that the reviewers on the MLR side made, which really helps streamline the update process to get ready for resubmission. So that whole resubmission process is dramatically accelerated using the platform.
Yeah, so just as an example, right? Your MLR reviewer is now reviewing this document and they see, oh, this color needs to be different, right? So they're gonna go and they're gonna annotate it and they're gonna say, please change this color to a lighter pink, right? And they say save. What they'd have to do if this was a manual environment, right, is they'd have to take a copy of this PDF with the annotations. They'd have to export it out of Veeva. They'd have to send a notification to the user within AEM, attach this document to it, and tell them, hey, here's the changes you need to make to this document. But because this is integrated, if we go back to AEM, right, and we go back to this web page, in the XpConnect menu options, there's a Veeva annotations menu option as well. So if you click on that annotations menu option, it shows you all the versions of this document that are available in Vault. So if we click on version 0.1, it actually downloads that document. And then if I click on that document and open it, it actually shows me, here's my annotation that I just added. So no manual intervention needed. At any time in the process, your AEM users can go in and look at the document that they submitted, if there's been any annotations, and they can go make those changes and resubmit as needed. So it's all automated. All right, so that was the web page. Let's look at the email next. All right, so the email again, the email document has been sent over. It includes our image or our modular content that we added in there. It includes all the metadata. With emails, Veeva requires an assets.zip, so we include that so that it can then be sent over to Veeva CRM once it's approved by MLR. And then you've got the component assets linked to it again. So that's emails. And then let's look at the IVA slide that we sent over. There's the IVA slide. Again, same thing. We see the IVA slide. We see our modular content added in there. We see all the metadata populated. And then we see the distribution package added as a rendition. And this distribution package, again, is the source. Once this slide, as part of the presentation it's in, is approved, it gets sent over to CRM. And then this distribution package is actually what gets sent over to the iRep app, which is the iPad app that the reps use out in the field to run through the IVA. So all of that is included. It flows through automatically. There's no manual intervention needed. All right. Oh, and then the other thing that I wanted to show you as well. Hold on, I'm just going to give this a quick re-render. So this is the modular content that we sent across originally before we then used it across different channels. So this modular content includes our claim text and the image, right? Now I do have this, I do believe I have this set up as a claim within Veeva. So I'm gonna do a suggest links here. This was the question someone had asked earlier about whether the auto claims linking worked.
Right.
So I'm going to give this a refresh. All right, and now we see that the suggested links shows one. I click on it. Sure enough, here we go. Here's my link. And then it shows me that this is a valid claim in Veeva, and then any documents that you have for that claim are automatically attached. So it's got a linked document for this claim that's automatically attached now to this document. So yes, we are compatible with the auto claims linking functionality, as long as the document is sent over as type HTML, which is what this one is. So hopefully that answered your question.
Great. Just doing a time check here. We have about 8 minutes before we get to the hour. So we should leave about 5 to 6 minutes to go through the data.
Okay, so really that's what I wanted to show you guys. Hopefully you see the value in this, not only the bidirectional connectivity that the connector offers, but also the customization and the metadata and distribution package syncing that you get using the complete platform. All right, that's it. I'm gonna hand you guys back to Greg. Thank you.
Thank you, Rohit. So let's talk for a minute here about what we're seeing in terms of the basic differences between the two in terms of value. So in terms of from creative design, content leverage, authoring, what generally we're seeing is kind of in that 10% improvement using just the basic connector, which does a few basic functions. No automation. It doesn't do anything that it can't leverage the modular content the way you saw it in the platform. So what Rohit just kind of demonstrated as a platform. And so when you think about the difference, we'll send you these slides between those couple of functions that are provided by the connector versus the platform. Most of this benefit is it's in a combination of things, but it's the automation of those major manual processes. It's also in the leverage of the modular content, and everything else becomes kind of, somewhat gravy, if you will. But we're seeing quite often, as much as we've seen as high as about 60% improvement in both cost and time. And it all depends, right? And I think everybody's operations that we've seen are getting more sophisticated, and we're starting to put in more analytics and data so the customers can start measuring kind of the value. That's really what we're trying to get here over the course of the next few months with the product. And once we have a lot of data in terms of some base case information, and then kind of what some after the fact improvement numbers are. And that's stuff we can really leverage now. We've got enough data points where we can start leveraging and seeing kind of some of these differences and nuances. But that's kind of what we're seeing. Let's go back to the vehicle. And this is part of why the business case is so important. So you can look at this and say, all this wonderful thing, right? You got all these different trucks. You try to figure out which one you want. And at the end of the day, there's one little thing someplace. And it comes down to, in this case, distance. Right? So all these EVs just don't have the distance under load. And so as much as you want to get the EV at this point, right now, the answer is it was the ICE vehicle. And it wasn't that. But unless you went through that kind of analysis, you may not have gotten there, just like the difference between the connector and the platform. So the one thing we're going to do for anybody on this call that wants us to work with them, and we'll do this at no charge, is we'll help you craft a business case leveraging some of the data and metrics we have. And we've got a whole process for this that we tend to do during discovery with clients, but we'll do that piece literally at no charge. And there's a pretty straightforward process. We'll give you a template to collect many metrics as possible. We'll kind of go through and have a couple of sessions around requirements and some validation, and then we can quickly ascertain kind of where some of the improvements can be, and ultimately give you kind of a draft report and kind of a final report and recommendations. So we're happy to do this for anybody that wants it. So just reach out to Dimitri and he'll schedule the appropriate starting point.
Yep. Definitely. So just to close out here, I'm going to be sending this deck out to everybody, so it should be very easy to follow up. But again, if you're interested in connecting for a business case, it's a little bit of a time-consuming process that we're happy to offer our time for, and it should be really valuable at the end. So thank you all for your time. Again, my name is Dimitri. I'm the sales director here. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you have any that are lingering, email me, post them right now, and we'll get to them. Otherwise, we all appreciate your time and hope to speak to you soon. We'll look forward to connecting to discuss some of your business cases.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right.